Many said we should try to unite after the tragedy that took place at the Trump rally, the assassination attempt over the weekend. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, no, we're not uniting, okay? And I have some clips, a bunch of different videos that she just recently posted, some from interviews at the RNC, a bit of her speech, and she is very clearly and unequivocally trying to divide us further, which, as has been sort of the thesis of today's show and among the different segments, I'm really sad to see how quickly, especially MAGA, jumped into their normal dishonest talking points with no interest in seeing if we could come to the table in good faith and try to unite despite our massive differences. So, here we are, and I'm just going to play some of this and then react with you. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I want to remind you, as this is happening, which this doesn't change the tragedy, how horrific what happened was, how terrible this sort of political violence is, all of it, right? The attack on democracy that is a violent act. I will continue to say we should advocate for democracy through democracy, not through violence. I know you all agree with that. This shooter did not. But it should be noted that as they try to make this a thing about the left and Democrats, we keep learning more about the shooter. And while I'm going to wait to have a complete conclusion until we see the end of this investigation, just the facts we have at this moment is a registered Republican. Classmate said he was super conservative. Trump signs in the yard of his family home. His family's on a Trump campaign list for super pro-Trump people. He had a pro-gun influencer shirt on. So let's just be a little bit calmer than what we're seeing from Marjorie Taylor Greene, where of course she's trying to make it about, and this is another example of the left being evil. It may not even be someone who's of the left, and even if it was, these sorts of generalizations are really dangerous and divide us further. Why can't we unite in our opposition to this sort of violence? I don't know, but here's MTG.
And I hope there's a lot of people on the left watching this. You people would have been out in the streets, burning down cities like you did the entire summer of 2020, looting stores, destroying businesses, attacking police officers, absolutely attacking federal courthouses. You would be fighting us, murdering us in the streets if that had happened.
If you are not already subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? You're breaking my heart. But please do click that subscribe button. It's easy, it's free, and I appreciate it greatly. Back to the video.
But that didn't happen, did it, Natalie? No, we didn't go out rioting. We didn't go out destroying property. We didn't go out murdering and attacking people like the left has lied about us for all these years. No, we went to prayer. We dropped to our knees and we prayed for our president. We prayed for his family. We prayed for America. And we prayed to our God, who we know saved Donald Trump's life.
The most that
I don't understand why she would speculate like that. That if Biden were to have been shot, that we would have rioted. You all know that if we are talking about the summer of 2020, I'm only supportive of peaceful protests. So any violence that took place, denounce and seek accountability. And we have seen that with some of those instances, but this is also coming from someone who actively encouraged and has now justified and lied about the violent attack on the Capitol. So maybe let's just stop acting like you're on this moral high horse, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in your response to such an event, because last time you felt that the left was wronging you, something terrible really did happen. But again, it's all very unfortunate that this is the sort of nonsense we have to immediately jump back into fact-checking, but that's just where we are. Here's more.
You know, I remember when Joe Biden took office, he came out with this unity message, unify, unity. And then the Democrats proceeded to rip our borders wide open and actually create an illegal invasion into our country that's murdering Americans every single day. Then they have spent the past 8 years vilifying us, demonizing us, Hillary Clinton labeled us as deplorables. They called President Trump Hitler. They called all of us Nazis. They called all of us fascists.
Who? Because, again, if you go check my Twitter DMs, they are calling me everything under the sun. But that doesn't mean I pretend like every Republican is saying such things or is represented by those people. But she acts like just they. I'm sure someone has called Republicans Nazis, but I haven't heard too many elected Democrats saying that. We have to understand the distinction. Because if I pretended like every Republican were the people that show up in my DMs threatening me and stuff, then I would have a very unfair perception of most Republicans, which is why you have to then look at, all right, who's significant, who's in positions of power, and that can help to build a framework. Now, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are in positions of power, so that does hurt my image of Republicans. But if you do the same for Democrats in positions of power, you realize, yeah, you have a Hillary Clinton deplorable comment. You have some other things you could cite here and there, but the broader framework by which she's operating is very inaccurate and flawed.
Called us a threat to democracy.
Well, that's just true.
President Trump is going to destroy democracy. He's going to become a dictator. No. And then they turned the Department of Justice against us, weaponizing our justice system against people that protested the election on January 6th, against Catholics having Latin Mass, against parents wanting to hold their school boards accountable, against pro-life protesters protesting against abortion, put Peter Navarro in prison. Steve Bannon is in prison right now. God bless Steve Bannon, by the way.
So, Steve Bannon, we've gone through those talking points before that she just listed off. Here's what I really want to hear. One of the reasons I've come to you every day, and when I say threat to democracy, some of you probably even get annoyed with me for how much I insist on then going through exactly what I mean by that. And this has been happening for probably years now, where if you're a regular viewer, you're probably going, I know, fake elector scheme, I got it, pressuring Mike Pence to, overturn the results or pressuring local officials to engage in fraud. We've heard you. But the reason I do that is so that we're clear about what it is we're talking about. And I do find it fundamentally strange that she wants to pretend like pointing to the way that MAGA's ideology and the actions of Trump have threatened and would threaten our democracy, that's provoking violence when it seems like such a cornerstone of our ideology is doing so, pushing back against their views through our democracy, because that's what we're trying to protect. So why would we encourage people to go outside of that in the worst possible way, when the very principles that lead us to opposing MAGA are the principles that would lead us to trying to solve these problems through democracy? So that should be said. And I don't know how else to describe it, Marjorie. You tell me. Let's do that, okay? Marjorie, and I'll get to another video in a second here. You tell me, because you don't like the rhetoric of people, such as myself, who say that you're a threat to democracy, what I'm supposed to call you saying we can't allow, this is your words, not mine, for the peaceful transition to power like Joe Biden wants, is her quote. You encouraging Trump while he was engaging in what have been deemed by prosecutors to be illegal schemes to prevent Biden from coming into office. If we have this democratic process and then your side says, yeah, but we're not going to respect that, and we'll even go as far as going outside of the law, like assembling slates of fake electors and trying to get those fraudulently counted as the real ones, and the vice president engaging in that process to keep someone in power who lost an election, I'm asking you genuinely now, what do we call that? Is that good for democracy, or would that sort of be bad for democracy? Because normally, when you say we're going to do the opposite thing that our democratic process came to the conclusion of, being Biden won that election, and then supporters of yours attempt to help in that effort by blocking the certification through violent means, what are we supposed to call that if you're saying threat to democracy is too provocative of language? Open question. Here's another video she posted.
Yeah, look here. I'm a football fan, and we're supposed to be driving the ball down the field right now. We're not doing one big long pass. This is a game of inches, and we move the ball, and that's what we did. But let me tell you something: the Democrats are coming, and they're going to move the ball too. And our biggest thing we have to watch for is election fraud, because the Democrats will do anything to stop Donald Trump. They lie every single day and say he's the biggest threat to democracy. They call him Hitler. They call him a Nazi. They call him a fascist. They want the man dead, and their radical supporters and their ground troops are even on social media, demanding that someone else shoot him in the head again. And they're
Just vile stuff. I'm sure someone out there on the internet has said horrific stuff like that, so that I oppose. But as we keep talking about, you could find that in any situation. An example I've given is there are Nazis on the internet, right? You can find Nazis who every day are saying Nazi things, who would identify as Republicans. But I'm not going to go and say because there are Republicans who are Nazis on the internet that all Republicans are Nazis, right? Or this is even representative of the Republican Party. But they're not able to sort of do that both ways. That's why I respond to, in particular, characterize either party mostly by those who are in positions of power. But I don't want to get into the Hitler thing again because I did in the last segment. It's interesting how she goes, how dare they say Trump is a threat to democracy, right after she's expressing something that deteriorates our democracy. No, Marjorie, fine. You know what? I'm not going to say Trump's a threat to democracy in this sentence. I'm going to say you are, okay? And we're going to oppose you through our democratic process only, peacefully. But as to my previous point, what are you supposed to call when someone keeps saying that election fraud is going to happen and the election is going to be stolen from Trump, when they said that last time and their own investigations and every recount and every audit and every court case determined it to be a legitimate election? What are we supposed to describe your words as? Because it seems like you're spewing anti-democratic stuff. And a part of us uniting requires you to come to the table with a common dedication to our democracy, because otherwise, what are we uniting around in our political system? I talked to a Trump supporter, actually, tragically, right before we were at that rally, right before we were just doing the normal interviews, before the assassination attempt. And one of the things I posed to a Trump supporter was, how will you know if the election's legitimate? And so we went back and forth, and then went, how about this? How about this? In November, because surely you don't want to hear yourself say the only way it's fair is if Trump wins, right? That would feel weird, right? So let's agree to a framework by which we can determine if the outcome was legitimate. And how about we do this? If after every investigation, every audit, every forensic audit by the cyber ninja right-wing group, every court case, every media organization investigation, every whistleblower complaint looked into and determined to not be legitimate, every official coming out and saying it's legitimate, then can we say the November election's legitimate? And the guy goes, yeah, sure. Like, well, that's what happened in the last election, so goodness gracious. Here's a little bit of Marjorie's speech as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Today is a celebration. The American spirit is alive and well. And we have once again nominated for president the founding father of the America First movement, Donald John Trump.
I said before, and I know this is not the most substantive point in the world, but because of how often Marjorie's just spewing vitriol, something's even more chilling about whenever she's at least presenting happiness. It just, something feels wrong about it.
Donald Trump has, and he will, make America successful again. He will make us wealthy again. And as God as my witness, He will finally give us the country we deserve. Because Donald John Trump is the leader America deserves. God bless the American people, God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America.
Yeah, I guess let's say that a normal human smile takes a calorie. I don't know how much it takes, but let's say it takes a calorie or a half calorie. Let's go with one just for the sake of argument. To smile, right? It's actually harder to just smile on command than I expected. I had to think too hard about what do I do with my mouth. It seems like it's taking 10 to 20 calories for her to like get up the energy to want to smile. I'm happy, I promise. I'm not thinking about the next horribly divisive thing I'm going to say, such as
they promised unity and delivered division. They promised peace and brought war. They promised normalcy and gave us Transgender Visibility Day on Easter Sunday.
Of course, Trans Day of Visibility was actually on the same day that it always is, and sometimes that falls days and days and days away from Easter this time because Easter changes around on the calendar. It happened to coincide. But that was the greatest attack on America ever, apparently.
And let me state this clearly. There are only two genders.
Okay, cool. You know, I want the continuation of and the thriving of our democracy for all people in this country to benefit from. I want to invest in programs that increase people's wages, improve their quality of life, give them a job they can be proud of, health care they deserve, benefits to those who have served our country that they deserve. I want to invest in schools so the future of America is brighter. I want to invest in infrastructure projects so communities are better. I want to invest in programs, as we've seen under the Biden administration, that lower crime to make people's communities safer. I want to invest in a response to climate change that leaves a planet that is livable for our children and grandchildren and provides energy options that are cheaper than fossil fuels as renewable energy is. I want to make sure people have clean and reliable drinking water, unlike the 10 million Americans that currently don't, which is horrible. I want to make airports better, more efficient. I want to strengthen unions, give people better say in their workplace. Marjorie Taylor Greene is focused on how many genders there are. Just different priorities, you know? And she feels very proud of making that proclamation. Yeah, okay, good. Woohoo. Go Marjorie. What's next? By the way, when they say that, I don't know if she knows that doesn't really connect to her trans point that much. Because she's always saying in response to trans advocacy, there's only two genders. But the whole trans identification comes from, I don't know, this is the most technical term, but switching or identifying with a different gender than what you were originally assigned at birth, while understanding there's an underlying biological sex that doesn't change. And so there would still, even in that scenario, be two with switching, but then of course you have non-binary. I don't know if it's the absence or a new one, but Very interesting that was her big mic drop, especially when you contrast it against what I think are the priorities of the movement that I'm a part of. And a part of that priority list is protecting people's ability to be who they are, express themselves the way that they like to, identify the way that they choose. That's America, baby. Truly. That's the freedom that people have in this country. So get on board or keep screaming on stages about two genders. Okay. Here is also Katie Britt, just a little bonus clip.
And it doesn't have to be this way. Under President Trump, we had the strongest economy in history. That's right. You didn't need to go into debt just to make ends meet. Energy dominant, stable prices, secure borders, safe streets, strong families and communities.
I don't like making fun of the way that people are talking because it's so difficult to public speak like that. I know. I've watched back videos of myself in previous times before I accumulated all these years under my belt, and have not liked them. But just after her State of the Union address, because it was so widely commented on, I do have to say it does seem like she's about to break into laughter after every single word. It's very, very interesting. But there it is. There it is. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get extra content daily, I know what you're thinking. You didn't go to the side camera. I was relying on the side camera. If you do want to get extra content daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below.